this is necessarily going to be a story time. It's kind of more of like a talk point. I decided that I wanted to do some more kind of chit chats, but maybe some topics that might be a little bit, not really taboo, but might be a little bit controversial, which I decided I will call the Red Room. So I'm going to put that as a separate, I was supposed to say tab and then link. I was about to put that as a separate playlist. So it'll be sectioned separately. And then also maybe some personal adventures, different things that I've experienced, or maybe just even little outings or whatnot. I still want to start vlogging eventually. When I say eventually, I don't mean like putting it off much longer, but there's just a lot going on as per usual. I mean, if you could go back and whatever old videos are still available for me over like the past year or two ago, there's just always something going on that, you know, I have to find a way to work around. So anyway, all that to say that today I wanted to talk about, this kind of involves, I guess you could say, health, spirituality, and psychology. And I'm going to be sipping on today's beverage, not sponsored, which is, this is called Wonka's Candy Can. It's caramel fudge. I actually did a taste test of some wrap snacks. I was a little late on that, but yeah, I also taste tested this. It's actually pretty good. 0 sugar. It has obviously the sugar replacements, the normal sugar replacements, but it still actually tastes really good. It actually does taste like caramel. It tastes almost like a cream soda, but like a caramel flavored cream soda. So it's actually pretty good. So anyway, so what I wanted to kind of, I don't really have any talking points ready. I usually like to have talking points available to me, so I don't want to get too sidetracked, and we're going to try and keep it, you know, not too long. Just get to the point. So what I wanted to talk about was the fact that there's actually a lady, let me plug her channel, because she was really asking for a channel to be plugged now, that goes by Pretty Blind Eyes. And yeah, she made a comment. I believe she studied psychology, and she made a comment where she said that there's a fine line between psychology and psychosis. And I believe that to be true. Now, the reason why, what did I say? I said the fine line between psychology and psychosis, and that's not what I meant to say. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of interruptions right now. Okay, so when I say interruptions, I'm talking about of the spiritual nature, which is really what I'm trying to get at. So there's a fine line between between psychology and being psychic. And psychic using an umbrella term to refer to all of the senses that are not recognized outside of the 5 senses of, you know, hear, smell, see, touch, taste. So there's a lot more. There's all kinds of, I guess they're termed under clairs, but there's even beyond that. I don't know, so many things are coming to mind. That's why, you know, like I said, I usually like to have talking points. So I'm just going to freestyle this and just try to keep it not too long. But so yeah, again, to rephrase or to repeat what she had said, she said there's a fine line between psychic and psychosis. So a lot of things can be explained when you have certain spiritual abilities. A lot can be explained through spirituality. A lot can be explained medically, and a lot can be explained psychologically. So let's just say if, for example, like when I first started exploring in my personal journey, when I first started exploring my gifts, and the first place that I went was YouTube, trying to figure out, you know, when I did a video on spiritual awakening, I'm not sure. I think I privated the video. I think I might unprivate it. I don't remember if I did yet, but yeah, I had that video up for a while, and it was talking about my spiritual awakening. And essentially, just to kind of summarize, when you go through a spiritual awakening, you basically are stripped of all of your beliefs, all the things that you've been, for lack of better words, programmed to believe, whether it be about religion, manners, just whatever beliefs that were indoctrinated in you. You're basically stripped of all of that. And that's why I found that a lot of people who have spiritual channels, they curse a lot. They say a lot of things that tend to be, a little bit taboo. And it's because I feel, and from my own personal experience as well, it's like you are now, the way that it's basically explained is kind of like you're being stripped of everything so that you can be rebuilt properly, so to speak. So it's kind of like, this is a really far stretch of an example, but this is just what's coming to mind, or maybe what I am channeling, that it's kind of like with Jesus. Like Jesus came and he basically didn't follow the norms of the culture and the societal norms that were existing at that time. Like it was taboo to hang out with, the women of the evening, so to speak, or the certain ill people and things like that. And he was doing all of the things that everybody thought was wrong, right down to, his obvious demise, which was the accusation against him that he was the Son of God. So that to say that you're basically stripped of everything so that you can be rebuilt properly. I wouldn't say to be rebuilt like Jesus so that, we accept any and everything, but it's so that we can see things through the eyes of not being judgmental, about not putting up certain walls or barriers to things that we have been taught to, that maybe we don't need to. So the cursing thing was always kind of weird to me, but I guess, again, it's language and it's how we communicate. And, we're always taught that certain curse words, especially on YouTube, and there's such taboo things that you can't say that will demonetize your channel, get your channel or your video blocked, all kinds of things that will happen. So you get stripped of a lot of things, and you also start seeing a lot of signs and synchronicities. So you could be thinking about something and you'll start seeing it everywhere. So that gets into where I was talking about how things can be explained spiritually, they can be explained psychologically, and they can be explained medically. Because, anyone with, I don't want to say common sense, but I'd say common sense being that something that most people might be aware of is that if you're thinking about something, it's kind of coming to the forefront of your mind. So you'll be more aware of it. So you probably might have been seeing it a lot, but just not paying attention to it. But now you're seeing it more. But for me, there comes a point where you're seeing things beyond the point of coincidence. So for example, people who have gone through spiritual awakenings, I actually remember seeing a video, I can't find it though. There was a video I saw of Carrie Hilson, and she was talking to the spiritualist Sanguru. I think that's his name. He's been on a lot of people's channels. I don't know if he was on Oprah. I saw him with Will Smith. I saw him with a bunch of different people. Excuse me. And she was talking to him. This was a few years back. This might have actually been pre-pandemic or maybe somewhere around that time. And she was saying that, why are there certain people who keep seeing repetitive numbers? Like, what does it mean? And he kept turning it back on her, which is, again, like what a lot of psychologists do, which is they will turn the question back on you. Like, what do you think it means? And it's kind of like, no, people like me, when I was going through that, it's like, you want to know, why do I keep seeing these same numbers? Like I mentioned in my spiritual awakening video, the number 1111, when you go through a spiritual awakening, that's like the first number that you see, and you see it everywhere. You could be dead asleep and you'll just wake up and you look at the clock and it's 1111. It's in the middle of the day. You're like, oh, I just have to go run and use the washroom. Oh, shoot, let me check the time first. And it's 1111. You're just like, why do I keep seeing this number everywhere? You look at a license plate, 1111. You see somebody's t-shirt, 1111. You're just seeing it at like an obnoxiously harassing level. And that's not a coincidence to see that. And the fact that numerous people around the world are having that experience, it's not something that you can easily just dismiss and say, oh, it's psychological, or it's this, or it's that. That's obviously something that's very unique. So he never gave her an answer to the question, unfortunately, but he did keep turning it back on her to say, like, what does it mean to you? So I guess that could lead that from his perspective, a spiritual awakening is an individual experience, but it also is a collective experience. And there's a lot of videos, and I actually tagged some videos that are a little less chatty than mine, talking about what a spiritual awakening actually is. Like some of the steps and processes and things that you go through, whether that are common with people who go through a spiritual awakening. Whether or not you want to call those people chosen, whether they have a purpose that might be a little bit greater, meaning it might affect more people than just your average person might affect, a couple people in their neighborhood, in their area, on their platform, whatever it may be. They might have just something a little extra that they might have to do in this incarnation. So getting back to the original point, which is that things can be explained through psychology, through medicine, and through spirituality. I'm trying to think of another example. Oh yeah, the original example that I was going to mention was when I was listening to a lot of people who did like tarot readings and things like that, or spiritual readings, or just channeling messages, things like that. They would say, oh, they're saying this, or I'm hearing this song, or, and I was like, who's they? I'm like, who are you talking about? Like, it was kind of scary at first. And I didn't know what to make of it. I'm thinking to myself, like, are they okay? Or, are they having an episode? Or like, do they need to be diagnosed? Like what do they keep saying? They're saying, or I'm hearing. And I kept thinking it was like an audible voice. But when it started happening to me, this was, again, there's like a whole thing that happened between when I started seeing the numbers and telling family members and different people around me about it, to where I ended up now, and then probably even where I'm going to go later. There's a whole long story in between that. But just again, for the purpose of this video and talking about that, there is a thin line between psychic and psychosis, meaning that it can be explained in those ways, or you can actually be diagnosed with something when you really don't have what you're being diagnosed with, because it really is something spiritual. But at the end of the day, certain spiritual experiences, because they manifest themselves in the physical body, because as they say, we are spiritual beings inhabiting a physical vessel, having a human experience, that they can be explained away in different ways. So, again, back to people saying that, oh, they said, or I heard, or I'm hearing, or whatever. I used to be like, what are they hearing? What are they talking about? And like I said, when I started to experience that, it's not really an audible voice. It's not really a voice that is even your own voice. I wouldn't even call it an independent thought. It's just kind of like something that comes to your mind that you probably don't even know is knowledge that you have, or it might not be knowledge that you have. It's something that is being projected onto you, or again, as they say, channeling, meaning that you are connecting to higher sources of spirituality, of a spiritual nature, angels, deities, God, whoever it is, but you're actually getting words, messages, songs, things like that. Now, if you were to go tell a psychologist this, or someone who is in the medical field where it comes to dealing with mental health, they might, want to diagnose you with something, saying, okay, you're hearing things. Like, what do you mean you're hearing things? You're not really actually hearing things in a way where it's kind of like intrusive. It can be intrusive because you could just be minding your business and you're getting these messages and things of that nature, where it's kind of like you might not want it. You can't really turn it on or off. It just happens. And it happens to a lot of people. And it explains why people like someone like a Sloan Bella, who went viral because she got very, very detailed information about that situation that took place. Having something where, is she to be diagnosed with a problem, or some sort of, however they categorize certain types of mental health issues, should she be diagnosed with something if she's able to sit down and say that she's seeing something in her head, or she's hearing words or times or dates and they can actually be verifiable? Or can you say that maybe she might be connected to, I don't know, people that might be giving her this information and she's acting like she's getting it from somewhere? Or maybe, again, like it could just be spiritual, and she really is having an experience where she's connecting to someone's spirit, getting this information and delivering this information. So from my perspective, the spiritual part is very, very real. I know it's not for a lot of people, but not everybody, I say fortunately and unfortunately, gets to experience these things. And then there's also the part where, you could be experiencing that at such a rate that it does become intrusive in your life, where it's kind of like, okay, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to be involved in this, or I don't want to have these gifts, or I don't want to experience these things. And they can become intrusive in your life to the point where they do create physical, mental manifestations where I wouldn't say that it would call for a diagnosis, but it would be something where if it becomes like, for example, in psychology, I'm not a psychologist, but in psychology, they do obviously look at things in a way where if it becomes something that is not helpful in your life, and it does become intrusive in your life in a way where it does not allow you to manage your life day to day, then they can diagnose you with something. But at the end of the day, if you are experiencing something that is spiritual, but it becomes intrusive, you could be diagnosed, you could be put on medication, you could be called crazy, you could be called bipolar, you could be called all kinds. What is the other one? Schizophrenic? Whatever those ones are that you hear. I can't think of everything right now, but whatever diagnoses you can have where you would hear voices or experience, even physical. I forgot what that one was called. I forgot what that one was called. There's ones where you can actually feel touches and things like that. Again, everything can be explained away medically, psychologically, and spiritually. So I don't think I did the best job of explaining this because I freestyled it, but I just kind of wanted to get that point out there just as a beginning point of something that I'm going to talk about a little bit more in detail, but a little bit more succinct with just putting out that at the end of the day, when it comes to spirituality, it's a very tricky subject that luckily there are a lot of people online, and there are a lot of people in the spiritual community that have had these experiences. Sometimes, it's generational. They've had it in their family for a long time. So they do have that support. Whereas other people might not. For me, not going into too much detail just yet, saving it for the book. But one of the experiences that I had, especially when I began my awakening, was seeing those synchronicities, seeing those repetitive numbers, and not having anyone around me really validate what I was experiencing. And that was frustrating for me, because even telling your own family and saying, hey, I keep seeing this number over and over again. I don't know why. And I keep seeing these numbers and then this number. And they keep just saying, well, because you're thinking about this, or I see that number too, or, it doesn't mean this to me, or it doesn't mean that to me. It's like almost like they're telling you that you're making a bigger deal of it than it actually is. But then you go online and you listen to other people like, oh yeah, so when you go through spiritual awakening, you'll see this and you'll da-da-da. And you're like, wait a second. All the things that I've been experiencing, I was told that's nothing. Like, you're making a big deal about nothing. Like, that's not real. Whereas there's a whole bunch of people who are having the exact same experience. And then it kind of leads you to something that's popping into my mind right now. I don't know if anybody's watched the Mario Brothers movie, but there's a little ghost in the movie, ironically, right? A little spirit in the movie, where it was basically making a reference that I've heard in other movies too, where it says, I don't remember what it said word for word, but it's basically saying that and I'm just going to use this term for, again, lack of better words, but the crazy people look at the sane people like they're crazy because they have a higher level of awareness. But then the sane people, the quote unquote sane people, look at the crazy people like they are crazy because of their level of awareness. So I don't know, it could go very far. It could go as far as a Kanye West. It could go as far as a Donald Trump. It could go as far as, like I said, a Sloan Bella. There's many other people, because even with the information that she provided, there were other readers who got that information way before she did, but she just happened to be the person that had the larger platform that was delivering that information. So how do you explain that, right? Is that medical? I don't know. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. There's something else that popped into my mind, but I can't really remember, so it might not be that important, but to be continued. Just wanted to put that out there as a little starting point of some little discussions that I'm going to have. And yeah, if you're someone who is experiencing or starting to become awakened, oh, I just remembered what it was before I end this. It has to do with during the pandemic, how a lot of spiritualists, their channels like tripled, quadrupled, because everybody was looking for answers that they could not find medically. They couldn't find or explain psychologically with what was going on, and they needed help in those areas too. And a lot of people turned to these spiritualists, I don't want to call people tarot readers. I think it's kind of dismissive of their gifts, because tarot is a term. Tarot is a tool of divination amongst other tools that you can use just to kind of, it's almost like sorting through information that you're getting, and allows you to, sift through that information and provide it. It's almost like taking a bunch of pages of a book, putting it into chapters, numbering the pages, getting a table of contents, that type of thing. It's just organizing the information that you're getting, speaking from experience. So, yeah, again, just to end it, as I was saying, I just wanted to kind of touch on the fact that we need to look a little further into spirituality. And I think that the world is kind of shifting in that it's shifting in that way now, because people are becoming more aware of the fact that there are things that are not seen that we have access to, some of us. I think that pretty much all of us do have more than the five senses, but we don't all tap into it. As they say, some people are born with the veil completely off. Some people are born with the veil partially lifted. So people's gifts might extend way to things that aren't even named yet. Just like psychological issues that have not been named. It's very deep, but I just want people to take into consideration that there is a difference between psychology, medical, and spiritual, and that it is a fine line if you can't really maneuver it well, and they can sometimes intertwine. So that's it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Again, it's the cheat code.